We're live here at Digital Hollywood. All right, I'm Nancy King. Hi, everybody. I'll be your moderator today, and I am a brand strategist consultant with my own company called New View Marketing. So today we're going to explore where augmented reality stands in terms of its technological advancements, and also, really, how is it enhancing consumers' lives, and how does it affect industry? Besides entertainment, how does it affect industry at large? Some of the questions we'll be looking at are, is the platform making huge advancements, or are we making incremental improvements? What's on the horizon for social AR? And what should a content creator or brand do in order to stay on top of this and deliver this medium, this platform, this experience to their audiences? So we'll look at these questions and more today. And our wonderful panel is very deeply immersed into the AR experience. And so we're going to start with Greg and have him introduce himself, and then we'll go down the line. And will you please talk a little bit about your company and then how it's involved in the AR experience?
Sure. I work for S&P Global Market Intelligence, and I cover AR and VR market hardware and software markets. Yeah.
Great. Great, fantastic.
Hi, I'm Clay Weishar. I'm an experiential creative director focused on augmented reality. The past 5 years, I was at Tool of North America doing large-scale experiential AR executions. Most recently, I joined Ridley Scott Creative Group to focus on emerging technology and storytelling, and also taking on the role as an official lens creator at Snapchat.
Hi, my name is Patrick Aloise. I'm founder, CIO, and also janitor of Alchemy Innovation. In short, I work with third-party companies, advise them on marketing strategies, help them launch digital products. But primarily, I've been focused in augmented reality, or what I would call mobile-activated media. So we're 10 years going back all the way to QR codes. The first AR experience I ever created was for Sports Illustrated in Lexus for the 2011 March Madness issue, and it was very groundbreaking at the time, but it was very simplistic 2D videos that were anchored to the cover that you could scan and they would come to life instantly. So that was fun. Most recently, I've been working with MovieBill. I guess the quickest way to describe MovieBill is it's a Thank you. Thank you very much. That's the easiest way. When you basically think of a playbill for movies. And so we partnered with Regal Cinemas, updated their app to add a MovieBill AR camera module, which basically allows you to scan every page of basically what's a collectible 28-page program. Every page, including the ads, gives you some kind of interactive experience, sometimes 2D, sometimes 3D. And so that's been a lot of fun. So launched that this year, produced Jurassic World, Infinity War, Mission Impossible, a little summer sneak peek issue, and then we're just ramping up for the slate in 2019. I also have been lucky to work with AMC, a development company called Trigger, and Mountain Dew to create the Walking Dead AR Encounter app, which maybe you bumped into in stores. It was something that you could. It did audio rec, so it would hear that you're watching the show and you unlocked a 3D walker, or you could scan off a Mountain Dew can or off an in-store standee, again, to kind of unlock all these different things. And it was over a course of like 20 weeks. It was extremely successful. Mountain Dew, obviously benefited from that. So it was a nice thing that they were partnering already, and this is a way to add that on top. But again, like I said, I've been working in this space for a long time, primarily entertainment-oriented.
Great. Thank you.
Well, I have a choice between a very short intro
Yeah.
or a long one.
Say what you need to say.
Well, I have been in the interactive business for over 30 years. Started with AR about 4 years ago. Was really excited to have one of the launch titles for the Google Tango phone, which, as Google is wont to do, is no longer available, but it was 4 years ago, and was really the start of the AR mobile, I would say, revolution of actually knowing more about the environment, not just the target and doing simple target-based AR. It was really room-based and now environment-based AR. So that was about 4 years ago. And a year ago, left the company that I founded for 20 years, and left that to go work with Hit Point Studios. They have offices now in LA with me and a few other former legacy people, and offices in Western Massachusetts. There are about 30 of us. In terms of AR, we've been focused mostly on entertainment, games, retail. We have some retail examples I can talk about, as well as education and training, which I think has tremendous potential with AR. So that's about middle way there.
I think it was good.
Great.
Thank
you.
I'm Rob Lester. I'm an associate creative director at Glow Digital Agency, which is based in New York. We predominantly help market TV shows and films. We also have some B2B clients. A lot of my role right now is helping to create prototypes for clients to help them understand how their IP can work in a mixed reality environment or a virtual reality environment. We also do market some augmented or virtual reality experiences on behalf of our clients, so really thinking about how do we get people excited about this emerging medium and these platform opportunities. And we're doing a lot of exploring with storytelling, which I think might be a theme later, in the space, and tackling some of the creative and communications challenges. We're also thinking a lot about how social media and mixed reality interact in general, how we can converge these kind of communication platforms to create new ways of interact with other people through content.
Great. Thank you guys very much. So when I first started doing this panel a couple of years ago, I had started playing Pokemon Go, and I was convinced that we had reached the tipping point at, for consumer awareness and involvement because of that. So of course, as I started talking to my panels, I would ask that question. And as even, it's been like 8 panels later, and I'm still, it's still not necessarily the case. There's different varying opinions on that. So I'm going to ask the panel, where do they think we are in the tipping point of augmented reality for consumer applications? And if we can also frame that discussion in terms of some of the devices out there, headsets and glasses and so forth, and phones, that would be great. So I'm throwing it out. Are we at the tipping point?
I'll take it first.
All right.
I would say we're not quite there yet. The tipping point for me is when we can have augmented reality glasses that can actually be worn outside the home. In a way that's not looking like what we have today with Magic Leap or HoloLens, because no one's going to actually wear those outside. And I think those AR applications that are going to be key to driving the industry are going to be the ones that are outside the home and outside the office.
Yeah, I think that 5G is going to really help in edge computing and helping us sort of reach this tipping point. I don't know how many of you were at the Magic Leap conference last week, but basically 5G is really going to enable, this technology, because currently to have a headset and have the compute power is really difficult. So, in terms of augmented reality having mass reach, we've got Snapchat, we've got Instagram and Facebook's new AR sort of platform, but that's all within sort of social, and you've got a 4 megabyte and 2 megabyte limit, so you can't really do a ton of really sort of immersive type of experiences with that. But as compute power increases, we're going to definitely see it get closer to the tipping point.
I'll add a little bit to that. I think broadly I agree that at the consumer level it hasn't really taken off, but I do think that Snapchat and Facebook lenses are great examples of early kind of consumer success, that it does do a great job of demonstrating the transformative potential of mixed reality, and it gets people thinking about how our bodies interact with content in space, dynamically and interactively. I think that where we're at is we have these headsets like Magic Leap and HoloLens, which are affording us the opportunity to explore some of the interaction paradigms and what it means to have a content narrative play out in space around you. There's still a lot of conceptual thinking that remains yet discovered that's going to help make those experiences kind of compelling for everybody and scalable across a really large audience. So I think it's a really exciting time. I think we are close to the tipping point, obviously closer than we've ever been. When exactly that will be is a byproduct of certain technological and really large scale developments. But I think for people who are interested, it is a great time to be playing around with the Facebook and Snapchat lens. See your creations go out there, interact with people, and you get user feedback that way, and think about what can we do next as interaction and sensing paradigms begin to evolve or continue to evolve.
Yeah. There's 4 million people using Snapchat lenses every day for an average of around 2 to 3 minutes. So huge opportunity.
Yeah, if you compare that like as a form of media, even nobody watches anything that long. So even from a potential of from storytelling to commercialization, I think that I think the space is wide open. I think we're going to see scalable AR in more of a utility form. I think Maps with Google and Apple and them, investing heavily now with their whole platforms, ARKit and Core, I think the first and foremost mass use is going to be me holding the phone up here and going, where's the room I need to go speak in? And then I'll go, and it'll pop up and say, walk this way, dummy. I think that is where we're going to see mass use. I guess, projecting on the windshield of your car is another example of that. But I think wearables will transform mobile in general. I think AR will be a behavior that'll be taught through this. And I think even some of the workshopping and storytelling, and because of ARKit and ARCore primarily, and the fact that they're software, not hardware, which killed Tango. And that's the other thing, which I think waiting for hardware is always going to be the challenge. I've done some stuff with like ODG, and they're really head and shoulder, really far advanced on a lot of them. But even there, I don't see that being a massively, a massive consumed product that people are going to wear that.
No, not at 20. Thousands of dollars.
If it was $5, I don't think anybody would wear it. You know what I mean? Like, right? It's that same, I won't say the term, but with Google Glasses, right? It wasn't. The content's not there, the function's not there yet, but the behavior of utilizing this is, I don't need to argue.
Does everybody agree with that, or do you think that's not the case?
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, for people right now who are thinking about producing an AR app, an AR experience, the biggest obstacle, and I think this relates to your question of the tipping point, is getting them to download an app. So, we've had experience putting multiple AR apps in the App Store. They've gotten promoted. And even the most successful apps, like, let's say, the Very Hungry Caterpillar, which was promoted up the wazoo by Apple as an AR app. I've spoken to the developer. They haven't made their money back. So getting people to download an app specifically for an AR experience is very, very hard. So now we've done 3 projects with Google, and I can tell you their attitude right now is you integrate AR into an existing popular app.
Yeah.
That's the strategy. Don't ask people to create a brand new app and expect them to download it. So when you say Google Maps, like I was at Google I/O in May, and they showed off how they're going to integrate AR navigation. I'm still waiting for it. As far as I know, they haven't launched it yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen
but that's the kind of getting New York Times app to integrate AR, getting Yelp to integrate AR. That's when I think you're exactly right, that's when the tipping point will happen. And it doesn't hurt that, Niantic is going to be coming out with Harry Potter pretty soon, and consumer AR will get a big boost at that point.
Another thump.
Yeah.
Well, can we talk about some of the technologies involved in AR? I don't know, how many content creators do we have in the audience? Quite a few. Okay, good. Yeah, what are some of the challenges with technology, and what are the technological advancements and challenges going on now with it?
I would say it's user adoption, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily a technological
Yeah, more from a
thing, right?
like 5G as the example. What else?
I think that'll help connectivity. I mean, with Movie Bill, we saw it. I mean, with all the things I had done before, I said if you can't give Infinity War content to somebody seeing Infinity War on opening weekend and get high engagement, then AR's not real, and I'm going to go do something else. But the engagement was very high, in spite of the fact that connectivity was very challenging. I mean, in the theaters in general, that's a tough thing, and a lot of these were very big files, which I think is another. Again, like you're saying, you limit it to 2 and 4, you're really limiting your storytelling ability, and how immersive and how good it looks and all that stuff. So.
I think
that's a challenge.
there's some technological challenges surrounding how we're acquiring information about the user and what we're doing with that inside of an experience. So we're starting to see more devices being made. I'll use Magic Leap because it's a great example and a recent top-of-mind thing for people in LA. It's a sensor-rich device that captures a lot of information about you and presents unique challenges about how do you manage that data, how do you create it, or how do you creatively incorporate it into the functioning of an experience or an application. So, computer vision problems surrounding how we're detecting hands, how we're differentiating objects in a room, what we do with that information after that are, some of those are processing challenges. Some of them is, just sensor size getting smaller and lighter, more power efficient.
Yeah, getting the UI and the UX down correctly as well.
Absolutely.
As mentioned with, the hand visualization is quite important.
Yeah. But when you have an experience that leverages that really well, it is really exciting, and you start to realize that your sort of set of inputs that you use to engage with digital content has so much more opportunity than a device which is a window to your world, but has a very limited framework for interacting. And that's where really interesting stuff can happen when you creatively apply how your head pose is working with your hands related to your position next to the wall, all those types of things.
Yeah, I think that right now the most exciting sort of technology is really, mass market technology is happening with social AR and sort of mobile AR. We had this chat around 6 months ago, and since that has happened, there's been really breakthroughs in terms of technology for solving the occlusion problem. Facebook and Snapchat are working on being able to put images behind you. You couldn't do that in AR, so now you can put people in an environment, with a movie backdrop. You can segment the body, you can segment the sky. So that's super exciting, and it's definitely more sophisticated than what we could do 6 months ago.
In terms of entertainment and games, I would say one of the big breakthroughs in the last 6 months has been real support for multiplayer, multi-user. I mean, games are just so much more fun when you can play against somebody in real time. We're doing a game for Caesars, for Link, I guess is the name of their new bar in Las Vegas. And it just was a simple 5 sports games where you're flicking, and you're playing at the bar and you're passing time, and it's based on, the target is where you put your beer, what are they called? I've forgotten. The coaster, thank you. So it's a coaster is your target. You put your phone, and now you're playing this soccer, football, basketball, baseball, all these different games. Well, we launched it, and it was like, yeah, okay, that was fun, and people, because they're bored, they'll play it. But then once we introduced multiplayer, now that it's supported by ARKit and ARCore, and the game just took off. So to me, it's a very powerful capability, which I'm sure Niantic will be taking advantage of in Harry Potter.
I really love that example because I think it does something special with AR and mixed reality, which is it gamifies your environment. It's actually kind of a site-specific experience. And I think that building a little bit of that context-aware kind of logic into it allows it to become something which might actually motivate somebody to download an app, because you're really going to see a little bit more of a value add. If you're waiting at a bar for somebody and you have nothing better to do and somehow this comes to your awareness, you're leveraging the natural features of the environment in a smart way to create a unique experience.
Well, and not only that, but we're tied into their loyalty system. So you're gathering points and credits. And
as well.
I mean, so now we're all part of their back-end loyalty system too. So yeah, no, it's sort of a cool project, but it had to be multiplayer to really, with leaderboards and, competition to really make it take off.
It's a captive audience too, and so I think it's, again, the downtime or even to educate them on how and what, what are you supposed to do and how do you do it. If you're, in a store, and I've done a lot of shopper marketing, it's very difficult to get them to engage. One, it's not high passion content. If you're playing a game, that's fun. It's much easier to get somebody to want to do that, making it that much more fun multiplayer. I think so. But I think the fact that it's at an event, it's at like I said, a captive audience.
Yeah, AR is definitely meant to be shared. You're not inside of a headset, and just the fact that you can look around at people validating that whatever sort of fantastical objects in front of you, it just enhances the whole experience.
So I'm like looking at Greg for a minute here, and the reason I'm looking at Greg is he's the numbers guy, and I want to know just in general, is there anything you can share in terms of the numbers of what's going on out there?
In terms of AR headsets like HoloLens and Magic Leap, we were still in the hundreds of thousands of units, shipping kind of area, and that's not scheduled to go up until we see more major manufacturers releasing AR headsets, and the number one manufacturer out there obviously to look to is Apple. And then they've been acquiring AR-related technology companies over the last 3 years. They've acquired 7 different AR-related technology companies. So they're getting closer and closer to that launch date, and it's probably going to be 2020, 2021 when they release something out there for the market. And in terms of other numbers, obviously mobile AR is the number one AR platform right now, and that's going to continue to grow as we get more and more phones that support AR kit shipping and AR core. People upgrading and stuff. So
are you saying that you think that the tipping point for consumer applications will be with the phone, your smartphone?
No,
Or not?
I think for consumer applications it's going to be with headsets, and headsets that you're going to be able
Who would've
to
thought
wear
that?
outside the home.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
and obviously with an Apple device, I think that's what they're trying to target is an AR headset that you're going to be able to link to tether to your smartphone for compute power, and then be able to wear that outside the home.
2020 vision.
I mean, Apple's done a great job
know that's
already
what they're gonna do.
building like a device ecosystem that can, by adding glasses to the mix, achieve a lot of things that Magic Leap has had to do a lot of R&D to build it into a single device.
Yeah.
Because if you think about your Apple Watch, if you think about AirPods and your phone as extensions of the capabilities of a pair of glasses, you start to realize that by the time Apple drops that pair of glasses, there's a lot of other contextual devices that can support any activity through a headset.
Right, and eventually it's going to lose that tether to the smartphone as technology. And
Well, I
compute
mean,
power
think of
increases.
voice, right? I mean, by the time 2020, I mean, you're not going to be tapping on anything anymore. I think my kids that swipe, I think they're going to get trained to talk. I mean, I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and they yell at Alexa all the time. For sure.
I can verify that.
I love it. Okay, let's talk about some of the applications you guys are working on. Entertainment, industry, military, social causes. What are you guys doing? Let's hear some of the cool stuff.
I mean, everything I've been working on, and what I know anyway, and probably what I'll stay focused on because of that is consumer-oriented, more high passion areas. So worked in film, working with Loot Crate right now. If you guys aren't familiar with that, it's like a monthly subscription. You can get like fan gear, gaming, any pop culture, from like figures to T-shirts and such collectibles. And the idea is to have a virtual loot experience where you can, either extend something off of the product itself, the toy, or it's coming off of the crate. It's actually something where you don't ever necessarily have to scan. Going back to AR Kit and Core, you can just place scan your environment and place, virtual loot or supersize or however
So you're getting a box at home like once a month of cool stuff, and you take it out, and then you can use your code on there, and it comes to life on you. Kind of like the recipes you get at home now, or home delivery, or flowers of the month. You've got cool nerdy stuff of the month.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
I mean,
kinda cool.
again, it's a captive audience. It's high passion content. They have an app. The idea is to prototype in the standalone and then integrate that into the app and drive behavior of using that app and tracking that behavior and all that.
That's pretty
all
cool.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, a project that I'm really proud of that we finished up was called Imaginary Friends AR. Basically, it was AR experience created for mobile, downloadable as an app in hospitals. And you could place AR characters in the hospital, in the hallways as kids are getting sort of wheeled to their surgery, and these characters would encourage kids. So it's a really kind of unique use of AR, in the hospital, in sort of the health and wellness category. They just awarded it at Alliance at Cannes, so we were super proud of that. We worked alongside RPA agency to sort of bring everything to life, and that's been really cool. I think on a personal note, I'm really excited about the volumetric capture projects. Just shot something with 8i, and it was really cool to sort of move away from the Unity kind of like computer game looking characters into something that's a lot more cinematic. And I think that over the next couple of years, volumetric capture inside of headsets is going to be wonderful, and as mobile AR catches up with it, volumetric storytelling is super fascinating, an area that I'm really interested in.
Yeah, I agree. And in case for those that don't know what volumetric video is, think of it, I could put a 3D Spider-Man here, but somebody made that in with, computer graphics. What this is it's a brown green room, and you stand there, and it captures you in video as you're moving, but you are standing there in 3 dimensions. So it makes a holograph of yourself. It's pretty amazing stuff, and they have. I mean, it's a ways off, but they have some hopes to do. That's how we're going to communicate. I think, what do they call it? Teleporting, something like that, right? Yeah.
The killer app.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, a couple. I think it was 2 panels ago. I had a couple of hologram people on the panel, and they did say they had not yet reached the point where you would get that Obi-Wan Kenobi full 360 experience yet. That wasn't available. Is it now? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're pretty
Okay.
close to that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different capture stages in LA too. So LA is a really great area to explore volumetric capture. You got the meta stage in South Bay, and you got 8i in Culver City, and there's definitely more. So it's a really great city to be in for that.
And it's incredible how optimized the stuff is able to be now and still retain a pretty high degree of photorealism. I agree, it's a super exciting space that the technology is actually becoming useful in devices. A lot of what Glow's been doing with augmented reality is really thinking around how to kind of explode what a second screen experience is. So thinking about launching AR experiences off of content so that you can have tangential content that may provide additional context or additional information about what it is you're looking at. So you could kind of think about it like, spatialized DVD extras would be one way to think about it. You could think about it as, launching games for children at the end of a kid's show to carry on a storyline and make it more interactive. That's a lot of the space that we're exploring, and also trying to, our clients being predominantly entertainment clients have a lot of unused assets in certain instances that are built for the creation of the show, but then don't really have a life outside of that. So we're also trying to help our clients realize and understand what are other opportunities to get value and engagement out of what they've already built.
Smart.
Great.
What's interesting about what you were just talking about is that we've had 2 Hollywood clients who wanted something with having to do with AR put into their app for the sole purpose of being able to get featured by Apple and Google in the stores, in the mobile stores, which is sort of funny, but yeah, so then you do it, and then they in fact do get featured. So it's something to think about when you're talking to people. It's a nice pathway for featuring, which is super important for marketing. One thing one area that we've had some experience in that I think is replete with opportunity is the smart toy area. You think about what's been happening with the demise of Toys R Us, and, toy companies are really rethinking their product lines. And they're trying, if you're a Lego, for example, and I'm just using them as an example, you're trying to figure out how to get more replayability, how to once a kid has built it, what are they going to do with it? So we are doing things like object recognition has been huge in this. So we're so we're doing things, for example, with drones that you're controlling with targets on your hands. We're doing things with we created a fairy house that is just super cute. Imagine sort of Farmville type of gameplay, and then you're growing fairies. So they pop out of the flowers, and this is all virtual, and you're getting virtual messages from the fairy queen. We're working on a couple of other projects like that where we're adding AR to try to extend the gameplay experience to physical toys.
Ariella, you're also doing some other things in education or industry or something? You want to talk a little
Well,
bit about that?
working on a really fun project now. It's not super hard technology. It's target-based technology. So you have, but it's a cool educational concept. So you have physical cards, and kids are laying the cards out. We create sort of a virtual grid that helps them organize the cards on a table, and then using these different cards. So it might be batteries, wires, light bulbs, fans, and they're building electric circuits. So we're using this to teach them. It's really a sandbox, and they're moving physical cards around. And obviously, when they create a real parallel circuit or serial circuit, the light bulb lights up. And so it combines the manipulatives with the AR experience, and, you know, like a company like Osmo does really well.
Anybody else want to add anything, and everybody good? All right, good. Well, we have a lot of storytelling content creators in the audience, so how does working in the medium of augmented reality, I use the word medium platform, I mean, that itself is a discussion question, like what is it exactly? But how does that affect storytelling, and what would you give the storytellers in the audience, the content creators? What advice would you give? How does it affect their ability to do what they do? How is it different?
I mean, you have to evoke emotion in any storytelling, so I think in that way it's the same. I think you can think in 3 dimensions in maybe a different way because of AR Kit and AR Core. Almost it's more like maybe theater in the round, or in a way, or it wouldn't be on stage. You're kind of more immersed in it, or maybe it's the opposite way around. Maybe the stage is around you and you're in the middle. But I think thinking in 3D space and how you want to drive people and their attention within that, because again, you have a much bigger thing than this to fill. You have all of this to fill, and so do you want them not to see stuff here on purpose the first time around? There's a lot of things to think about in a spatial way.
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment by saying that it's a lot more like immersive theater than traditional flat media, and it's a challenge to get the emotion across in the storytelling. I mean, there's been studies, and even the best video game with a narrative, has a hard time having the same impact as like a TV commercial. It's just the film medium's so powerful. So I think as creators, we really have to figure out how to evoke an emotion and tell a story and sort of get beyond the tech of it and really sort of tap into human truths and stories and sort of evoke that emotion with these augmented visuals.
One of the ways that I've been thinking a lot about this lately and talking with some of my team about it is to kind of reframe the concept of storytelling altogether. I like to think of it more as story making, because I think the most gratifying augmented reality experiences that I've had are really including me as a character in what's happening. So I think anytime you're trying to concept a mixed reality narrative experience, you should be aware of 2 unexpected characters that are there by default. One is the user, and whatever they do has to change, influence, impact, be reflected in the story in order for them to have that type of emotional connection to it. Otherwise, you're really just kind of looking at holograms. And the other one is the space itself. To think about how that functions as a character in a narrative means that you're really taking advantage of somebody's environment, and you're creating a new relationship between them and that space through that act of story making. And so rather than it being something which unfolds in a predictable way, you're leveraging those kind of unique characters or unseen characters to help drive that narrative to unexpected places. And that allows users to have observations or experiences that you can't control as a storyteller, which is why I think you have to let go a little bit of that desire to know how fast something is going to take. And if you think of it as a feature, not a bug, you can start to create interesting experiences that are native to mixed reality. I think a lot of this applies to VR too, without the space stuff.
Yeah, I think that was really well said. I'll agree with that.
Thank you.
Fully. I think a lot of the thinking associated with storytelling in VR, I think it really can translate to AR through this device or wearables when they show up. But again, it's that 360.
It's very challenging to make something in AR and VR that's replayable. And frankly, most people have failed with that. It's a one-time experience. even the ones that are interactive and not directly linear. So I think there's some things that are improving in the technology that will make that more likely to happen. For example, using AR Cloud, so we now have persistence in the world. So you place something and it actually stays there and somebody else can see the same thing, that. But it's really it's one of the biggest challenges, I think, to get people to come back to your game or your story or your experience over and over again, the way they'll play a game over and over again.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. It's been tough. I think I would argue that people do it on Snapchat and that because they're already there.
Right.
I don't know if they're necessarily going there to do the filter. I think they're there and the filters are there.
Yeah, they discover it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also slightly narcissistic, because you're involved, right?
Yeah,
so you're
totally.
So I think you being in it is a big part of the story too.
That's huge. They did some tests, and there's a reason why selfies are being used in marketing. It's because they have so much more engagement when you're doing like a face filter. So if there's a way to work in storytelling, location, and the person, I think that those are great recipes to work with.
Great, okay. So what advice would you give a brand if they want to jumpstart themselves into AR? What do you think would help them jumpstart their efforts into using AR?
What are they? They should ask themselves, what are they looking to achieve? Because like anything else, I would never say do AR for the sake of AR.
You have to keep an eye on the ROI.
Yeah, I mean, what do you? I mean,
especially.
again, is it? I just want them to have an immersive experience, and I just want brand lift. I just want people to be immersed in an experience that they enjoy that associates with my brand. Is that your goal? And you can probably achieve that. Is it? I want them to click through to buy something. Well, I'd maybe back off the experience a little bit and make that button look real sparkly so they tap it, So I think it depends on what you want to achieve and be smart about how you go after it and measure it.
I think that leveraging the social platforms, so Facebook has Spark, their new kind of like AR studio coming out. That's going to be amazing because it's going to, allow for AR experiences inside Facebook. Instagram is going to be doing more shoppable AR, so you turn the camera on, you view, the product, and then you'll be able to swipe up and buy it. That's hugely powerful. But as far as just getting your feet wet, I would download Lens Studio, Snapchat's platform. They've got existing templates that you can really sort of get up to speed with and get an AR sort of object out, in space and start to really explore it. It's totally accessible for small brands, large brands, and it's a fantastic platform to use. It's like similar if you're used to using Unity, you can, use this, and you can also partner with people that are doing these snap lenses and start trying that out and seeing if it's the right thing for your brand.
What's the name of it again?
Lens Studio. It's free.
Yeah.
So basically you're saying for a brand to start with social AR is a good place to start.
Absolutely.
You're definitely going to see some higher ROI because at least that can generate engagement as opposed to driving app downloads, which is going to be a complex thing to achieve, as we've already
And you don't have to pay for
discussed.
the development of the app as well, too.
My advice kind of depends a little bit on what's the brand got in terms of resources already. So if it's a brand that has developers that are engaged, I would assign somebody to start just do something. The more every time you do it, you learn a little bit more, and it opens up a different type of realization of what the opportunity surrounding augmented reality is. I think the other thing is if you're not a brand that's going to have a structure that can kind of pursue that internally, then you're going to reach out to a partner, an agency, studio, something like this. My advice to those brands would be don't try to be too prescriptive too soon in terms of what you think the experience needs to be. If you're not already coming at that with some kind of expertise or firsthand experience, try to let it be a collaborative process with the people you're hiring to do this. And you'll ultimately get a much more robust result by incorporating, input from other people.
Anybody else want to add in anything? Do you guys all understand the platforms available to you to work off of Unity? I mean, I don't know if you do or you don't. How many would like to just hear a few of the platforms, or do you guys, you're all, okay. Just more of a little technological education, it would be helpful. Anybody want to
I
just
think
throw it in?
Unity and Unreal, like some of these game engines that are out there, are great tools to create what you would call an AR scene.
So Unity and,
Unity and Unreal.
And Unreal.
I don't have a lot of experience with Unreal, but it's
They're both
top
great.
notch,
They
yeah.
tend to have done different things, but right now they're kind of the gold standard if you're trying to do anything more complex than a lens. Definitely starting with something like Lens Studio is great. Per Clay's suggestion, it's easier to get. It's kind of got a distribution built in, but pretty quickly, if you want to extend beyond that, you're going to start thinking about things like Unity, Unreal.
I think if you, depending on your application, if you're looking just to do something that's target-based, which the target then, whatever the design is, will actually initiate the AR experience, and that's the simplest type of AR that's been around for 10 years.
2D image recognition, so it sees
Yeah,
the image.
that's Vuforia. They still have the best target recognition. There are a lot of competitors out there, but you'd start, they're owned by PTC. So you'd probably start there. ARKit and ARCore, those are platform-specific solutions. One of the things we had to do was develop a cross-platform middleware piece of software that would actually allow us, depending on who, what device the user actually has, to seamlessly move between, oh, now we're looking for a target, oh, now we're looking for a plane, because you use different software depending on, so we have this middleware with the C# interface and goes back and forth. And that's been really helpful with some of these applications we're working on, because they tend to be platform specific.
Yeah, what I really hope happens is, so Unity is so good at integrating with Apple, Google, most ecosystems. What I really wish it would do is it would be able to export for Snapchat and Facebook, because a lot of the creators are creating these beautiful experiences inside of Unity, but then to access, the millions of people, billions of people on social platforms, you can't necessarily push out your experience. So I would hope that that's coming in the future. In terms of like a quick crash course on getting, Lens Studio World Lens working, basically go to Sketchfab, find your 3D object, download that, open Lens Studio, crack open the 3D, I'm telling you how easy it is, crack open the 3D template, drag in the object, and publish to your phone. You can have a World Lens, a beautifully lit, World Lens published in 15 minutes. And it's a great way to do it. And then you can iterate on it inside of the app. Facebook is definitely going to have tools like that. There's a really great prototyping AR app called Torch AR. So if you're trying to sort of define what the experience is and really get that user experience down and don't want to sort of publish to Xcode or, be inside Visual Studio and do heavy C# scripting, you can use Torch AR to sort of just define the experience, and then you can always hire a developer from that.
Great.
Is it possible for you to just describe what you just said about the global example, just really quickly, so I can at least...
Oh, you mean the Lens Studio?
Well, the little process you just described.
Yeah, I'm going to be teaching a course on Lens Studio, because it's just like a way for a mass amount of people to get inside of AR.
Very user-friendly.
Yeah, it's super user-friendly. There's like tutorials on the site. You can make either a face filter or what they're calling as a world lens. I'm giving away all my secrets. So,
And it's
so
being webcast.
in terms of the big sort of buzz portal that everybody just like freaked out on about 6 months ago, being able to go in the portal. Lens Studio has a portal template. You can just like download that and swap out the 3D objects and get that experience. They've got like new features coming out once the new beta comes, where it's really, really powerful, and Facebook's doing the same thing. So I think to get your feet wet, I can go over the process afterwards, but it's really easy to get up and running.
Great. Robert, I just want to know if you can share some of the stuff that you learned in the Magic Leap conference, the little nuggets for the audience.
How many people here were at LeapCon? All right, a couple. All right, it'll be pretty fresh for the rest of you. And feel free to jump in, anybody else who was there. I think there's a lot of things about LeapCon that were fascinating, and Magic Leap has been like had a storied past and all kinds of interesting hot takes about what they are and aren't doing. I think for me, I expected more of that to be at the forefront. What I found was that the thought going into the capability of the device and how mixed reality is going to grow in its use cases. They tend to be heavily focused on gaming, but they definitely presented a vision for the future that includes 5G as a really key part of that to help mixed reality be something that is like continuous and scalable, so that as opposed to right now you can wear a Magic Leap headset, it knows, as I said earlier, more or less a lot more about your body than most devices, a lot more about your space than most devices. It's doing occlusion fairly well sometimes, iffy at other times. But in the future, that device is not just going to know that we're in this room, it's going to know that this room is on the 3rd floor of this building, that this building is in a mountainous region, that is this far from downtown LA, and all of that becomes input information that we can develop into applications. So, if you think about it, an experience that's designed to happen when you look out of a window, it should happen differently on the ground floor than it should on the 3rd floor. Right now, there's not really a system in place that can achieve that. Magic Leap's name for this is the Magicverse. Mm-hmm. It's the layer of computing that exists over our reality. I thought that was a really interesting concept.
So exciting.
Yeah, it's just like to hear them articulate some of this thinking almost philosophically that's going behind the development. I mean, it really made me think that whether Magic Leap is the market share winner or loser, they're establishing a kind of conceptual framework that's going to be really important in the development of mixed reality experiences in general, device agnostically.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add in anything if you were at the conference?
I think it's super cool that they're basically creating a copy of the physical reality, the Magicverse, and that's so powerful because that allows you to do an AR overlay anywhere, and have persistent AR and have that pulled down from the cloud, and that opens opportunities for all sorts of industries, entertainment, science, art. It's a game changer.
Right.
I'll also just say, right now, Magic Leap is not the solution to all of our woes. So no matter what you do with Magic Leap, start from that point, and you'll be more pleased with what you experience.
So what do you guys think is going to happen in the next 6 months? What excites you about the future of augmented reality 6 months to a year out here?
I'm excited to see what kind of hardware we see out of CES in January. That'll be interesting to see. Yeah. Kind of like display development and things like that.
I want to see the Apple headset whenever that comes out.
Not in the next 6 months.
Well, I did say 6 months to a year. This goes back to my tipping point question. Where are we, and what's happening, and what's on the horizon?
I'm glad you changed that from 6 months to
Oh,
6 to a year.
I'm
'cause
trying to
like,
help.
I don't know about 6 months.
It's taken longer than we thought.
Yeah.
Well, I think web AR, there are now even some local companies that are working on some really good solutions for web AR, and that gets around this issue of not wanting to download an app.
Yeah, so you can access the camera through the browser, which right now you can do on like 3 devices if you have the right browser.
So I think that'll really open up especially a lot of marketing kinds of opportunities, marketing AR opportunities. And then next 6 months, again, I'm excited about Niantic and Harry Potter. I think next 6 months to a year, that'll be coming out. That'll give a big, big boost. I suspect they're going to be using AR in a more core central way than they did with Pokemon. I think it'll involve, and I'm just making this up because I don't have any inside information. I think it'll definitely include multiplayer AR. I think it will, may even include user-generated content, which would be super cool in a game where a user could actually create a 3D virtual object, place it for somebody else to find. So I think that'll be big news in the next 6 months.
Yeah, it's hard to pick just one because you got the holographic phones that are going to hit the market this year, You got Samsung's new phone that's got 4 cameras on it, and they're very sort of spatially aware devices. And then if you look at what the new iPhone's going to be able to do, we're all going to be able to do photogrammetry. You know, realism's going to be easy. The trick is going to be able to tell the stories, you know. And as storytellers in this room, I think it's really up to us to sort of move beyond tech demos, and, you know, the technology is getting easier and easier. It's like, what do you do with it and how do you apply it?
Clay, can you just say what photogrammetry is for the audience?
So, for instance, there's like a new app on the new iPhone where you can just sort of 3D scan people on the spot, and it does a beautiful, realistic stitching of like all those photos into one sort of 3D object. What the volumetric capture systems do, it's like you capture video doing that, but I am sure that that's going to happen on mobile devices. So we're all going to be able to create highly realistic copies of the physical environment and tell our own stories.
And that's going to be important for a huge range of applications too. You know, from social media applications, you know, into VR as well, because you're going to be able to capture yourself and insert, you know, an avatar of a realistic avatar of yourself into a VR or AR environment.
Yeah, and something you mentioned is just the contextual element of AR. Just being able to like be in a certain location and it pulls down that experience from the cloud based on the time of day, the weather, all this context stuff, which makes it so much more powerful than current mediums we have, because it's really factoring in context and computer vision and computer recognition. So I think over the next 5 years, we're going to start seeing a lot more AI merged with AR and fantastic experiences happening.
Right.
And like all of that, super exciting, all happening. And one thing I'm particularly excited about is concurrent is we're seeing a pretty big democratization of the tools, the availability of them. Almost all of, you can do like everything we're talking about that doesn't require buying hardware for free. Like, I mean, you can get into these engines, these platforms. That's really amazing. And as these devices come out and people explore them, and we're gonna see like 13-year-old kids just making like mind-blowing shit. And that's gonna be really interesting to like, it's gonna blow past all of our expectations, I think, because these are gonna be people for who this idea of thinking spatially about computing is native. And we're gonna be, we need to, from our position, we wanna leverage that. We wanna harness that creativity and that type of thinking. And so the more we can do to create opportunities for people to experiment, the more it's going to move this entire conversation along, and we'll start achieving these goals, you know, through the mix of the hardware and the software and the creative thinking that is necessary to make those things desirable.
Right. How many people in the audience will have questions? I'm going to gauge our time here. If you are going to have a question, just tell me so I can see how many people are thinking about it. Okay. Well, let's start with that, and then we'll keep going. Why don't we start with some questions? You're up.
Okay, so I operate a museum that's sort of itinerant museum, so I have a little gallery, and I put exhibitions in museums and galleries around, both in Europe, Asia, and here. But I'm also a motion picture producer and director, and I've been that for a long time. I went to Cal Arts, so we combine everything, and I didn't realize I learned that at the time because I probably don't remember much of it. But anyway, the point is that what's really exciting to me is attaching an experience to a piece of art in a given context. One of the reasons we started is because we want to tell the history of Venice Institute of Contemporary Art. When I tell the history of Venice, California, from its art history, by going into studios virtually that existed 40 years ago, using photographs, but also reminding people of how it looks now. So they'll value the location that they have now.
Cool.
So one of the things you talked about was that combining Snapchat and the object itself, so somebody can grab a piece of art and look at the back of it, or pretend they're making a piece of art or something like that. So what would you say, I think Snapchat is my entree into being able to allow, you talked about multiple users, right? Or you did. So I'd like other artists to create their own reality that I can import into mine. What would you say would be the best approach? Would it be Snapchat, like, you know, the lens Studio or something like that to start with so that other people could easily do it?
Definitely ease is Snapchat. I know you worked on some Cloud Anchor stuff, maybe. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to speak to the shared aspect of it, but yeah, ease is definitely Snapchat. I'm happy to email you like the steps to be able to do that. Yeah.
So the basic issue though there is that only people who have downloaded Snapchat are going to actually be able to see it and experience it. So you're limited to Snapchat and to users of Snapchat. So that's your biggest issue if you go about it that way. I think getting content into an experience would be super easy, but you might want to wait till Facebook comes
Yeah,
out.
which is
Facebook's a
coming
little-
this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that would be a much bigger audience than if you waited to focus on Facebook tools. I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to do, but we just didn't get this bid, but it was like near and dear to my heart, and I deeply wanted it. We were working with the American Battlefield Foundation and talking with them about how to make the Gettysburg Battlefield, which was the pivotal, 3-day Civil War battle, and how to bring that alive with AR. So that's where, based on the landscape, you're looking at Seminary Ridge, and you're seeing the Confederate Army come across, during Pickett's charge, and you're augmenting the landscape visually, so people can hold up their phone and see this animation in 3D. I mean, it's with all the battle sounds, and it's a really cool idea. In addition to that, there are over 2,000 monuments there, so you could show a monument and describe what it is, or there's so many ways if you're in a physical location to make, or you're in the Acropolis in Greece and you want to show what it really actually looked like, which was beautifully colored and just so dramatic looking before it was used as a ammunition dump and blown up by the Turks. So anyway, there's so many opportunities when you're in a location and you want to show people what existed before or what happened before, or and AR is really a great tool for that. So I'm not quite sure, and there are a lot of examples of museums using AR, many examples.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool, thank you guys.
Yeah, there's an exhibit in Pasadena right now at the Space Eisenberg AR art show. I would definitely check that out.
Cool.
It's
Yeah.
really good. I went this weekend too. It was
Nice.
Oh,
super worth checking out on the art interactive side of
Yeah, I
things.
gotta check
Yeah.
it out.
Sir?
How do you find people to come work for you? And what kinds of skills and background are you looking for in them?
It's a great question.
C#.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely need to have some people who are developer savvy. We focus on Unity a little more so than Unreal. So Unity has a couple of different coding languages that you can use inside it. But if you want to get into anything that's pretty nuanced, you're going to really need somebody to write some custom stuff. There's a lot of stuff that allows relative non-expert programmers to still make really great stuff in Unity. Some of it you have to pay a little bit of money for. So yeah, you need some developers who are excited and engaged. There's a lot of I've had luck meeting developers through things like Unity meetups. My approach to meeting those people is to kind of follow people who are excited about the engine. And typically Unity's doing a lot right now to promote AR and stuff like that. So if you're a Unity developer, you're familiar a little bit with some of this. And then I think there is finding people to make what the developers, like why, that's the question. And that's going to be the people who are thinking about the opportunity for narrative and stuff like that. And for me, I'm just looking for people who are hungry for it. People who are going out and trying these things, and you talk to people and you realize you have some good ideas about this. What else can you bring to a team? Stuff like that.
Yeah, a great resource is Unity Connect. If you go to that website, it'll hook you up with all Unity developers throughout the world. It's a great way to find talent. You can look at different work samples. But the challenge, I think, is finding people who have sort of a VFX skill set, but able to optimize that for game engines, because if you're talking about reducing things on the social platforms to 4 megabytes, huge challenge. You can't have too many polygons. If you're talking about an app, you have a lot more, but still you can't take like a feature film CG model and throw that into your phone, or it's going to get very hot and burn your hands.
It took 3 days to download, to download Thanos. It took 3 days to download Thanos. So then you basically have to decimate it down so that it'll still look good, but it'll not blow up your phone.
That's why we need 5G, huh?
Yeah.
Totally.
All right, well, I think that concludes our panel today. It's 1 o'clock, and I want to give a big hand to our panel. They were great, thank you.
Learned a lot more. I think it's probably a better way to put it.
You're always dealing with those kind of assets, too,
Well, I was
right?
just gonna say,
Like the
computer
movie
vision engineer.